What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Get Over Yourself podcast. Today, I'm in studio with my friend Cameron, who is the founder and CEO of Revhawk. In today's episode of the Get Over Yourself podcast, we're going to learn a little bit about Cameron's entrepreneurial journey, how he went from working at Fortune 100 companies and data and analytics and his journey into getting out of corporate America and going and working on his own startup. And that's what I want to dive in today. Your thought process, why you wanted to jump ship from corporate America, what's seemingly more of like, I guess you call it like the cushier jobs into joining your own startup and getting things off the ground. Some of the pros and cons of that, some of the things that were maybe a little bit harder than you imagined they would be, just a little bit. Anyways, before we jump in, I'll give you everyone listening, a little bio on Cameron. He's the founder and CEO of Revhawk, an analytics and customer retention platform for service businesses. Cameron spent 6 years in customer analytics and data science at Fortune 100 companies. He has a BA in economics from BYU, Brigham Young University, and partially completed a master's in data science from Georgia Tech, but dropped out to work on Revhawk. After high school, he served an LDS mission in Russia, and him and his wife, Megan, have 2 boys living in Bentonville, Arkansas. A beautiful place, I may add.
Oh, yeah.
Cameron, thanks for joining the show, man. Let's jump into it.
Dude, I'm excited to be here, Brandon. This is the first time I've done this.
First podcast.
Yeah, this is the first time I've been on a podcast. Probably late. I probably should have done this before. So excited to be here. And yeah, dude, excited to share a little bit about my story and entrepreneurship.
Heck yeah.
I think for listeners, if you're in a job that you're itching to do something on your own, hopefully some of the stuff I have to share is interesting.
How did you get to that moment where you knew that you're ready to go and do your own thing? You're working at the time at Walmart, I guess, for a little backstory. We'll jump into this in a little bit, but You're working at Walmart. What was the kind of precipice of you saying, all right, I'm done with this?
Yeah. I mean, there were a few things. So my son, our oldest, he was born 3 years ago, July 31st, 23. And Walmart has really, maybe I shouldn't say this out loud. I don't know what's going on the internet, but Walmart has really generous paternity leave. So I had 3 months where I was just with the family, with the baby.
Helping your wife adjust.
And it was amazing. But at the same time, I was kind of going crazy and, just like had all these business ideas and things that I wanted to work on. And I would just start coding and this is before AI. So I was manually, trying to pull stuff together. So that was one. I think there were a few things that happened at that time. So that was one, was just having a lot of time to really start thinking about ideas. And, because when you're in a corporate job, it can be pretty consuming, and you just don't want to think about, stuff like that when you get home from work. You just want to relax. And so having that time was definitely part of it, where I just really started to think a lot more. I would say there's probably kind of 2 other things. One of them was I was actually in a book club with just a bunch of, and it wasn't I got connected to it through church.
Okay.
But it wasn't a church book club. It was this guy who owns some car dealerships out in Arkansas, and it's like this open invitation. You kind of have to know someone to get into it, but that was how I found it, was a guy through church. And it's a group of just really entrepreneurial guys. And honestly, I didn't even go that much. I went 4 times that year, and it was once every other month or something. So, but you sit around in the circle around this fire. He's got this big property, and because he owns a car dealership, he has this grass lot with a whole bunch of cars just
naturally
sitting out there.
Because why not?
Yeah, 30 Jeeps, and you're sitting there and you're seeing this guy and what he's done with his life. It's just super impressive. And you hear these other guys, and we're reading we read Sam Walton's book.
Oh, I love Made in America. So that's a top 5 book of mine.
So good.
I love that book.
There were a few that stuck out to me, so that was one of them. There's a book called The Mysterious Case of Rudolf Diesel.
Okay. I don't know that one.
I won't spoil it. The only thing I'll share is Rudolf Diesel, he invented the diesel engine. And I feel like people don't really know who he is because he was German in like World War II, World War I era. And so he's not like someone you want to make a hero out of necessarily, except when you read the book, you realize that he was a hero. So I'm not there's a lot of twists in that one. He has a really interesting life, so I won't ruin that. But I'd really recommend that for anyone who's interested. And so right, Sam Walton, Rudolf Diesel. Another one was Hero of the Empire, which is about, and that was really that one's probably the biggest one. It's about it's a book about Winston Churchill.
Okay.
And it's kind of funny. I'll spoil this one a little bit. So basically, there was a war in South Africa, and he was there, and he wasn't even a soldier. He was there as a war correspondent for like a newspaper, but he like couldn't help himself and ended up getting like involved in the conflict and got captured as a prisoner of war. And it's this story about him essentially like escaping from South. Yeah. Like have you ever heard that story before? I
didn't know that. No.
Dude, he like Winston Churchill's beast. And it's a really interesting story. And so, I was reading all these books about great men doing great things with their lives. And, especially with Winston Churchill, she just talks a lot about in that book, like he just knew he was destined for something more and that he just sent it. Like he didn't know, like when he escaped from the prison, he had no idea what was going to happen. And I kind of felt, I'm on pat leave. I'm like fearing going back to prison essentially was the like kind of analogy that I made in my mind. And I was like, I gotta do something. And so that was like, I would say that was the time where I realized like, I am going to try and like send it on a business. And so that's, really those, just made that decision. And it really was, I think the other thing that I would say is I did an internship at one point for a company when I was in school. And they went public, I think last week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was a company, and I remember they're based here in Utah. They went public. And I remember, so the founder, he had started the company right out or pretty soon after school. And he kind of had his edge essentially, or the reason he was able to work on it, because he worked on it for 3 years before I worked there. And when I worked there were only 4 of us. And so he'd been working on it for a long time. And basically the setup was his dad had given him $80,000 a year. His dad was pretty well off. So his dad just like paid him work on this business. He was essentially like his angel
check.
Right. Yeah. He worked on it for 3 years. I think 2 years, it was literally just by himself, just like working on it. And then he didn't do any marketing. He just put it up online, eventually got a few signups. And when I started, and I was only there for a few months, it was just an internship. But, a few things that I took from that experience. One of them was like, this guy, he's not like that much, like, I don't feel like he's like smarter than me, or that like he's like this like amazing like Elon Musk, right? He's just
very rarely are the entrepreneurs the smartest ones in the room.
Yeah,
very rarely.
Exactly. And so that was like an insight for me of just like, why was this guy able to get where he's at? He kind of had an advantage. Like he just was given the time to work on it. And so that was where I was at, was I had learned like, okay, I need an advantage. Like what's going to allow me to just sit and crank on this thing, and it took him, that's like 12 years ago. So it took him like 15 years, but now he's got a public company that he sold. And like the advantage of getting started was just that he had the time to work on it. And so, right, that's really like, I was in a space where I was like, I know I can do this. I know that I don't need to be like the smartest person in the room or like the most eloquent or like, right, like I'm intimidated like being on this podcast. But it's like, you don't need to like be the best podcaster. You don't need to be the best salesperson. You just have to be decent at kind of all of those things and like willing to do it and try it and learn. And I knew I had that in me. And so it was just like, how do I get an advantage that's going to allow me to work on this? And I'm just going to send it.
One other thing I want to call out on that guy in particular is consistency.
Yeah.
I think it's easy. Anyone who hasn't started their own business and gone through the painstaking journey, whether it was a 6-month ride or you've been on that journey for the 12 years like this guy.
Yeah.
Even if he was getting those angel checks from, I think you said it was his dad. Even if you are getting those angel checks, think about the grueling nights where you're pounding your head against the wall.
Yeah.
You're tired, but you still got to go and make something happen. Yeah. And yes, of course, there's going to be sour apples inside of that batch. And there's going to be some people that don't necessarily care to work for it and whatnot. But the thing about this guy's journey is it doesn't matter who was giving him those initial angel checks, those $80,000 a year stipends. He worked for years by himself. When you joined, there's 4 people. Now, like you said, 12 years later, here we are. And he's got a public company that shows consistency. It shows grit to keep going, because I'm sure there's plenty of days where he could have gone and found a better paying job, albeit was his old man covering everything for the first little bit? Yes, but he probably could have gone and got a better paying job. He probably could have done something where it was more interactive and there was clear guidelines as to what was expected, and a boss telling him, okay, this is what I want, and him being able to grow in his trajectory and career. But the thing that he had over everyone was consistency.
Yeah, you got to be consistent. I feel like if you have the desire, and if you have the desire, you're going to stick with it. Like if you really want it, that's honestly like one of the things. So if you've ever listened to like Naval Ravikant, one of my favorite quotes from him is, the best litmus test for intelligence is if you get what you want in life. And right. So if you want it, you're going to do it. And if you don't want it, maybe you might even tell yourself, and I think this is something people need to be honest with themselves, is like, you might tell yourself, oh, I want to start a business. I want to get into this. But if you're not doing it, then you don't want it. Right? Like, you don't actually want it. It's just more like something fun to think about. Or I don't know.
Well, I think it's like the excuse game, right? It's always after you go and complete X, Y, or Z. I'm not always saying that that's necessarily horrible. There's certain things you could set up inside of your life to be more prepared, and I'm not anti that. I've done a podcast episode. This is like 2 years ago. I recorded this one of. Did you do Boy Scouts when you're growing up? Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. So I'm an Eagle Scout. Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, we got 2 Eagle Scouts on the phone. There's the concept of be prepared in scouting. Yeah. But the episode I recorded a couple of years ago was be prepared, basically, to an extent. I'm all for going and learning and getting really good at a field and craft. You did this for data analytics, and that's where Revhawk is at. You took the appropriate amount of time to go, but don't let that Don't go and be over prepared to go and do something.
Right. Yeah. I could have said, oh, hey, you know what? I'll do this after I finish my master's at Georgia Tech.
I could go do this after I get that VP level role. Exactly. Or, there's always going to be something else.
Exactly. And it was and which the Georgia Tech thing, I'm so glad that I ditched that when I did, because the stuff that I would have learned there, AI has automated all of that. Yeah. So that was, I dodged a bullet sticking around on that one. So. Yeah, dude, it's for me, getting started. And honestly, the way I got started, I literally went on Reddit and just posted and this is before AI. And so I feel like with AI, it's changed a little bit. On the pest control subreddit is where I went. So I went on the subreddit and was just like, hey, I do data analytics for Fortune 100 companies. Anyone need help with analytics? I had this company in Florida reach out, and I just they gave me a login to their Gorilla desk, and I would export reports and build graphs, and it was very simple stuff today. AI can do all what I did for them very fast now, but it added value for them. I think it actually helped shape because they were just getting started. They're a smaller kind of PE roll up, and it helped shape their strategy. They decided to not focus on residential and instead focus on HOAs and
interesting
multifamily commercial. And it's gone really well for them. They're killing it.
That's awesome.
So, I think I added value for them early on. But yeah, I found them on Reddit.
Why pest control specifically? You don't have a background in pest control. You have a background in data and analytics, but why'd you choose to work? When I was reading your bio, Revhawk is a platform for service businesses. Yeah. But right now, the big focus is pest control. Yeah. Why is that?
So the background in pest control. So I claim a little bit of a background in pest control. So after my mission, I did a summer for Fox. It wasn't a traditional door-to-door knocking summer. I did what they called leads. So, and this was me being kind of risk averse a little bit, but basically you get a lead, you go out, you sell them, you do whatever they need you to fix, right? So you get rid of the wasp nest or whatever. And then my job was to get them on the recurring plan. Okay. And so I've kind of cut my teeth. And then if I didn't have any leads coming in, I would go knock the neighborhood.
Got it.
So that was like, right, that's like kind of some experience. That was my first initial kind of introduction to the industry. And then, went on my analytics career. Why pest control? So when I was at Walmart Plus, so that's what I was doing for Walmart. I was the retention analytics manager for Walmart Plus. So my job was to, right, there's people, dumping customers into Walmart Plus. And like all subscription businesses, retention wasn't great. They would lose customers all the time, and we were able to help improve that a lot. And the company has, honestly, they've made some really big strides there. But that was my job, was how do we use data to help identify? And so I knew, and I had these ideas of like, you can do churn prediction, you can like do these types of analytics to help you understand cohorts and like that sort of thing. So I knew I wanted to do that for a subscription. And I knew I wanted to do something that was a non-digital business, just because if you're a digital business, you probably have an analytics team already doing this stuff for you. So recurring revenue, right? Because if it's one-offs, you don't really care about retention, right? Like plumbers, not really retention for plumbing.
To an extent, but yeah.
Like it's a little bit different, right? So recurring revenue, non-digital, and then you have to have data to work with, and like, are there systems? And so that's one of the reasons I knew, from my experience at Fox, that they had pretty good systems. Like, I didn't know what Field Routes was, but I was using Field Routes when I was there. And pest control just really, it checks all those boxes. And there's a few other industries, right? Like we could go do it for car washes. We could go do it for, I actually like credit cards at like small to medium credit unions and banks.
Interesting.
Is an interesting kind of space that we thought about. There's a lot of, one of the issues with that is like SOC 2, and like there's a lot more like requirements to get started, where in pest control it was like, yeah, here's my API keys, like go pull my data and do stuff. And so that's why we chose pest control.
That's awesome. What as you've kind of been operating for a little over a year now, I want to say, right?
Yeah,
just about a year.
Yeah, I've been working on it for over a year, but full time I went last September.
Okay, so almost a year now. Congratulations, that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll dive back more into Revhawk, where you guys are going with it.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to learn more, obviously, but want to take a step back once again. So you're working at Walmart, you're on paternity leave, you have this whole this book club group of other entrepreneurs basically encouraging you without grabbing your hand and saying, let's do this thing.
Yeah.
You recognize that you're ready to make the jump. What was that conversation like with your wife when you just, you're a young father, you're married, you've got a good paying job, you guys are living a healthy lifestyle. Yeah. What was that conversation like?
Honestly, dude, it was super easy.
Really?
I'm kind of the guy that like, I'm always mentioning, oh, you could do business for that. You could do, and so she's always known that I'm like
wanting to do something
and wanting to do something. And one of the reasons why it was easy is because I was able to get some investors. And like, I think if I had said, hey, I'm going to quit my job and I have no income and I have no right. I think a big piece with entrepreneurs, I think people look at entrepreneurs and they're like, oh, they're so risky. And I've heard this might be a trite thing to say at this point, but like, hey, they're very risky. I actually think entrepreneurs are very good at risk management. And how do you manage risk, right? I was not in a place when I graduated college where I could just go and do a startup, right? I was just getting married. I was pretty like destitute, honestly, and like came from a family where like there wasn't a lot of resources, or right, like I was like, I got to get like a foundation built. And so in those 6 years, I mean, we had been super financially responsible and like diligent, and that helped get us personally to a place where we felt comfortable being like, hey, yeah, like we're set, like we could last a while. And so I think that's a big piece of it. It's like, right, some people, they're in a position where, yeah, they can just, like the guy that I had worked for, he was able to just send it because he had kind of that backing. We had to work a little bit to get that foundation built. And so that was a piece of it, is just we've been super responsible and have that foundation. getting backing from Philo Ventures. This is my quick plug for Philo Ventures, because their strategy is really looking for people like me who had ideas, who had some sort of earned insight that they'd gained from a corporate career, and helping enable them to become entrepreneurs. So I was able to get that backing. And honestly, I just found that my buddy works there. We had done some case competitions together in college, Devin, if you know Devin. And that was right. So that backing made it a lot easier, because it's like, okay, hey, like, we can still cover our mortgage. It's not like we're, fighting for every inch. And at the same, one thing I will say is, I do think that like having to fight for it to survive also adds value in terms of like, accelerating the business and like how invested you're going to be. So, there's pros and cons to getting backing that early. But yeah, it was a super easy conversation with her.
That's awesome. That means you married a.
Dude, I married
she's a better person than you then. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely married up. So.
I got to throw a plug for anyone who's going down the entrepreneurial route. If you aren't married or have a partner, I kind of suggest it beforehand. A lot of people push back on this, and like, I'll go on X all the time and I'll see people. There's that stupid joke in startups right now where it's like single until Series B. Have you heard of this before?
I have not.
It drives me insane. There's all these tweets going out on X of people basically, if you're later stage in your company, a Series B is kind of like you go through the journey of like maybe some angel checks, pre-seed checks, seed, Series A, Series B, etc. Yeah. Generally around Series A and Series B is when you go, for the most part, you look at a company and go, okay, it's healthy, it's growing, like things are going up and to the right, like they're going in a good trajectory. Yeah. And so there's this joke of like, I'm not going to get with anyone, get a girlfriend, get married, anything like that until after I've gotten to that point. And oh my gosh, if you follow me on X, like half of my subtweets are just going off on that and just being like, you guys are so stupid. If you find the right partner in life, someone who's going to support you, there's nothing better. And I promise it's actually going to help your success if you go and do it right. Yep. My wife, Brent, and then my business partner, Connor, his wife, Maddie, like they are the reason Interval exists today. Because me and Connor were working on businesses with each other for 2.5 years where we did not make a single dollar bill. We were living off of like our broke college funds. Like if they were not working, we would not have been able to pay rent, eat food, anything in life. Yep. And we were living bare minimums, like scratching the surface, not making any money every single month, spending every dollar we had. Yeah. And if it was not for our spouses in that situation, I think me and Connor, and no discredit, like I said, there's the right term and you got to be prepared to the certain extent. We would not have been able to start our company and be where we're at right now had it not been for them. So that's my shameless plug for anyone listening who is afraid to go and commit and go down that path. It was the biggest blessing in our entire lives. They worked the entire time so we can get this off the ground. Me and Connor are playing startup for years before we got anything figured out while our wives were supporting us. And I remember like thinking every time I go see like my father-in-law and like all this stuff, I'm just like, I would go in my head and be like, what am I doing? Like, am I actually going down the right path? But she always supported me. And it sounds like your wife did that as well.
Absolutely, man. I mean, and she's even said like, hey, yeah, like, should I go get a job? Like, I can go get a job. It's like, no, like, we're good. Like, but she, she's like, oh, if you want more runway, like I can go. And I mean, she has her master's, like she could go do it. And, no, she is incredibly supportive. And I think the other thing too, I mean, you just had a kid recently.
Yeah. Like 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, dude. Like, I mean, when you look at those kids, you're just like, I would kill someone for you. Right. Like I would run through.
You're going to go win for him. Yeah.
I'm going to go win for you. And so it's just like, and I, it's nice that they're younger because it would be hard to have teenagers and be putting the amount of time that I'm putting into the company. Like that would be hard. That's a real thing. But yeah, dude, it definitely like ups the level of motivation.
I do think you would adapt though. I think like anybody might look at your situation now and see all the travel that goes into it and all the extra late nights and stuff. And you go, oh, that would be hard but I think you'd be able to figure it out just like you are right now.
Yeah.
So let's dive in a little bit more. So After your experience in data analytics, helping get Walmart Plus and the retention and all that, that's where Revhawk comes to be. You know, you want these recurring revenues. You want something that has data, but isn't necessarily tech enabled for the most part, a little bit more rudimentary. Stumbled on pest control. You're also looking at car washes, all these fun things. Let's walk through the journey. You're a year into this thing now. Things have been going really well for you. What are the biggest takeaways you've learned so far? And then the bigger question I want to ask here is, what are some of the things that you thought would be easier than they were when you started out on your entrepreneurial journey, when you were sitting still on paternity leave at Walmart and you go, I'm going to start this thing? How's your mindset shifted? What have you learned in that time period? What's been harder? What's been easier? What would you recommend for anyone listening who's in that career trajectory right now that wants to start their own thing? Like, what advice would you leave them?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing that I would say is like finding the right people to do it with. So for example, if you're going to do a software company, like finding the right tech co-founder, or if you're the technical one, finding the right co-founder who's going to do the sales side is super important. And that's a difficult process. If you're in a corporate job and, you know, your network is just kind of like people from
the cubicles, 10 rows away,
or maybe you're at an entrepreneurial company and that's you're going to have maybe more opportunities, but that has been probably the hardest thing. I think, I had a tech co-founder leave on me. Like that was, we can jump into that story, but that is one of the most important things, is like having the right people and having people who are completely dedicated to it and have like the same level of dedication that you do. That's definitely something that, I've learned from this journey. I think the other thing, there's a lot of directions that we could go, but it's like, well, in terms of like what was surprising, what was difficult, I think when you're in a corporate job, you think, oh, I have so much accountability. I'm so responsible. I get so much done. And it's a different level when you are the only one to handle everything. Right? Like I have customers who literally will text me at like 3 a.m. and I've gotten lucky and been up sometimes and I'll reply to them, right? Like, you're the one, no one else is going to do it. No one's coming to save you. Like, you're just going to do it. And that was, I think, you look at, I can start a software business and, once you get a sign up, you don't have to do as much to like, dude, like you are on the hook for everything. Anytime something goes wrong, you've got to get it fixed. And so that's like, I'm like super grateful to my team because they're extremely accountable and responsible. And we've been able to get to that place. It took a while to get there. It took longer than it should have, honestly. I wish my tech lead now, Josh, I wish I would have met him a year ago. Like, we would be miles ahead of where we're at now if we had been able to find the right team early on. So those are kind of a few things that have really like been big learnings for me.
That's awesome. I feel like sometimes you have to go through those. Me and my business partner, Connor, we have this conversation, I swear, maybe every other month. And we like laugh about the previous months and just be like, how did we not know that? That was like the easiest answer. Like, feels like somebody was holding the answer sheet up for the test right in front of our faces as we were taking it. And we still go through that path and we go, we didn't have the answer last month, but we clearly know the answer now and we know what we're going to do moving forward. But the funny thing about business is, and entrepreneurship is, this month there's going to be something else in that same situation. And then a month from now, we're going to be like, how did we not know that answer? It's a never ending cycle. So when you're talking about your new tech lead and all these different scenarios you're going in, part of it can be assumed, and you can kind of just sit back and look at the drawing board sometimes and be like, okay, this is the direction we got to go. But then some of it also just has to be lived, and you have to go through it in order to know that was a better choice. I don't think without your old CTO leaving, I don't think you would have had a better experience with Josh and realized like what you were looking for and what he brought to the table, what you needed him to bring to the table, all those fun things.
Yeah. Honestly, my biggest learning from that is you need someone who's a little bit crazy.
Like, absolutely.
a little bit insane. How did you and your co-founder meet?
In college.
Just in classes, or?
Just in classes with each other. We both recognized. So like I said, me and Connor, we worked on, I kid you not, we worked on 14 different companies with each other. Some of them had like some good merit. We had some early traction, few $1,000s coming in the bank every single month. And we were like excited about certain things. Some of them, I think, were really good ideas, but we were definitely not the founders to do it. I remember one we were doing for a little bit was like this fractional real estate thing, kind of like not necessarily like an Airbnb, but like fractional ownership of like nice resorts and properties and all this stuff. And I think a couple months after we had stopped working on that, that's when I forget the name of the company, but Jeff Bezos backed a company doing that exact same thing. We were by far not the right founders for that type of company. We didn't have any real estate at the time. Like it was a cool idea, but we knew nothing about the space. And so there definitely has to be those repercussions. But yeah, we worked on 14 different things before we jumped into Interval full force. We knew that we liked working with each other. This is how we knew that we were a good partnership. We liked working with each other. We got along, and not in terms of getting along like, oh, we were like best friends or something like that. In terms of I can have a really honest conversation with you and give you my honest feedback, and you're not going to get pissed off in a bad way. You might get angry because you're so passionate that you disagree and you want to go a different direction, but never taking it to heart and being like, hey, you're doing this wrong. It was always for the betterment of what are we trying to build. So that was a big piece for us. His strengths are my weaknesses, and my strengths are his weaknesses. So vice versa on those, I think was a really, really helpful. And it helps us learn and grow every single day. He's taught me so much that I could never have learned from anyone else, just because we can have those brutally honest conversations and he can call me out when I'm being dumb, and me to him as well. So those are things that I would look for.
No, I love that. And I think honestly, one of the kind of takeaways from that I would say, right, I met Devin at Philo doing case competitions in school. You met your co-founder in school. Like, for someone who wants to get into entrepreneurship, the relationships with the people that you're building anywhere in life, right? Is it in your classes? Like, those are important. And you want to go to places that are going to put you around the type of people who have the similar desire to get into entrepreneurship.
Yeah. It's the cliche of you just want to surround yourself with the people that you want to be associated with. And I say that, going back to your point earlier, I say this to every single person on our team when we're in the interview process, when they first join. I repeat it at company meetings all the time. Like, I will be legitimately so angry at every single person here at Interval if someday they aren't going and starting their own business. Like, I'm hoping they are using this experience to go, and like, it would be unfortunate if any of them come and tell me in a month, like, hey, I'm going to go start my own thing, but I'm also going to be the first person to ask if I can invest in their company. You know what I mean? Like, I think that is like the benefit in a company. If you go and choose to work at a startup as well, you're going to be around those crazy people that are one step away from taking their crazy leap as well. So if, for anyone listening, is past like, the college phase and they can't necessarily go and go find these people in school or something like that, that would also be a massive recommendation on my end, is go find a startup that you're obsessed with, take the pay cut, go do the job that you like are way overqualified to go and do. But go and surround yourself with those crazy people that are going to go and succeed.
No, I mean, it is hard. I mean, I was there, right? I worked at Walmart, massive company, and I loved the people that I worked with. But like, I don't think any of the engineers I was working with would be like a great tech co-founder. And there are people, there are people that you could find there, but it is harder when you're in these like big corporate companies to find someone who's super entrepreneurial and who's willing to take the jump, right? Because when you're making like $230 a year, $250 a year, like, it's really difficult to then say, okay, I'm going to go down to like 80 and just like send it on something that you're going to go build.
Well, I feel like I've never worked at a company like Walmart before, but I feel like it's also kind of a taboo topic, because it's almost like I get vibes of like 1984, where like you want to say certain things, but like you can't say them. Did you ever have those feelings?
No, that's a real thing. I mean, having been in Russia, I feel like I understand propaganda okay.
That's probably even better than Walmart.
And well, I was going to say, walking around Walmart, I would joke with people that like their propaganda is just as good, if not better.
That's hilarious.
Like their corporate propaganda.
Gotta eat the dog
employees.
food. Gotta eat the dog food.
No, but like, and I I've got friends and we would talk about it, but it was always like, when I told them like, hey, I'm out, I'm going to go start something, they were all like, dude, like, respect, like, we are not doing that.
That's cool though that they even said that. I feel like you hear the horror stories of people being like, that's like the worst decision you can make. And why would you do that? So at least they had your back on wanting to go do something.
I think it's pretty common. Well, I don't know. It was common where I was in Walmart Plus, and Walmart Plus was a more entrepreneurial part of Walmart. That there were a lot of people who like had that desire, but not necessarily like the risk tolerance, or they just kind of moved past. They felt like they had moved past that phase of life. No, I had really supportive leaders there, and they were very like my VP. As I was leaving, she was like, "Just so you know, like we kind of want to make you a director in coming pretty soon," and like they tried to use that to retain me.
Yeah.
But she was like, "But I also get that's what you want to do, and
that's cool.
I know that you have like a failure's not an option
mentality,
and you're going to do great." And so yeah, like I really did actually have really supportive people there, and I mean that's right. Like, I had really good experience there.
I want to talk about your investor scenario and how you're able to get that before like you necessarily had a semblance of product. You probably had a couple early beta customers, nothing crazy off the ground though.
Yeah.
What was that like coming from the corporate world and going and pitching this group and saying, hey, I haven't started a business before. I'm coming from Walmart. I'm looking to go and do this thing. Like what was your pitch? How did you get in front of them? What made them like you enough to back you and go through this journey with you?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a few things. One, I got really lucky in that I had the personal relationship with Devin already. Yeah. Like I honestly, you think of like a traditional VC pitch where you're getting in front of them, you have a slide deck. I never really did like that style of presentation to them. Mostly what it was I just knew, and I talked to Devin. I was like, hey man, like the first idea I brought to Devin was totally unrelated, something different. It was actually in the agriculture space and kind of what I had been doing, similar to what I had been doing at John Deere. And I brought him that idea and he was like, I don't know, like, I don't think this is going to work. And, and we would talk occasionally. And I kind of dropped this pest control idea. And one of the things he said to me when we were talking about the agriculture was like, go try and find some LOIs, like see if there are people who would work with you on this. But based on kind of his disinterest, I didn't go very far down that path. And that's when I did like the Reddit thing and I started to like find companies. And so when I was able to come to them, and I think I had like 3 different companies who were willing to work with me on it.
You knew you had something.
That's what got them interested, right? Mm-hmm. If you're a VC, all they care about is someone willing to pay you to do this? Mm-hmm. And are they willing to pay you a lot? And are enough people willing to pay you? And so if you can find someone who's willing to work with you on a project, that is a semblance of traction. That's a semblance of product market. It doesn't mean you have it yet, but it means that there's
signs that you could have it in the future, and you're on your path there.
So that's the first. Don't create a pitch deck. Don't go and talk to VCs. Don't like tell everybody, oh, I have such a great idea. Just talk to who the actual customers would be and see if they're willing to let you work on it.
I like that.
And do it at night. That's what I was doing. I would get home from work and after a while I was doing it at work where I was, starting to do these projects for these companies. Yeah. And that's what traction is. Yeah. Is someone willing to do this? And I was doing it for free for a while up front. I was just like, it's free for you guys. Because I wanted to almost get a little bit of a resume so that I could tell the next person, hey, I do this thing for pest control.
I think that might be the only thing I push back on nowadays, actually. Yeah. And maybe it is because you were doing this the pre-AI era. Yeah. I when we first launched Interval, we made people pay immediately. Yeah. Not a ton of money. We gave them a crazy good discount, and we still give those early customers are still on like we're probably losing money on them every single month, but just because they were willing to take a bet on us, then we will always try and help them out on that end. But anyways, I think if you get somebody to pay, that gives a broader sign of if they're interested. And because it's one thing to say, I'll take your free labor and come and help me out on this cool concept. But not only if you go that route, you can get honest feedback. I'm not saying you can't, but when somebody antes up and says, hey, not only do I want you to come and do this for me, but I'm willing to pay you to do this for me, I think that just, I don't know, it unlocks something else. Yeah.
No, that's a very real thing. And that was like when we got our first paying customer, it was like, okay. I mean, it was honestly not long after customers started paying that it was like, okay, I'm going to go jump ship.
That's cool.
And that was kind of the big signal once we were able to get to that point.
If you were, for anyone in the audience who's listening today, looking to get into their journey, they've been working the career path, the corporate career path, or maybe they're just starting to realize that they want to go down this entrepreneurship route. Where would you steer them now in an age where it's seemingly easier to build anything than it ever has been?
Yeah. I think it's a great question. I think that software is almost less compelling in some ways.
To an extent, yeah.
To an extent, just because there's so many people jumping into it. And this is, I don't know if you've gotten this feedback. I was at an event, a pest control event a few weeks ago, and I'll talk to these like legacy companies and they're like, dude, there are so many of you guys.
Yeah.
I get calls all the time. There's like 1 million of you out there. And so I think that, a lot of people, like, they have this entrepreneurial drive. AI makes it so you can build almost anything. So I do think like there are use cases in software. I think it's becoming more relationship based, where it's like, if you're really good at the relationship game and can build those relationships, then it's going to be easier to sell. And like, oh, I have a personal relationship with my guy who does this for me. I think that's, so if you want to go the software route, relationships is a big part of it. And like, what is your advantage that's going to, when you go and talk to someone, they're going to listen to you.
Yeah.
But I also, honestly, working in pest control, I'm like, man, like, it'd be kind of fun to, I don't know if you guys have ever talked about this. Sometimes I joke around, like, we should just start a pest control company, guys. Like, and so I think like in terms of like the service business space, I think there's a lot of opportunity because, right, people are willing to pay to have someone come out and do stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a dangerous thing now that you can get something, making something really, really sticky and really, really solid is still incredibly hard.
Difficult.
It takes years and years and years to make something amazing.
Yeah.
And there's no fighting that. You got to put in your time and effort. You could get something off the ground now a lot quicker and easier and way cheaper than you could have in the past. Exactly.
Yep.
You can get MVPs out very, very quickly. I will say we do have this ongoing joke here at Interval because we work in all different types of industries doing their debt collection. So from utilities to home services to gyms to, name an industry. And so every single week, the next one is, well, let's keep grinding on this. And then like if one of our sales guys signs a new gym, guess what? He's going to go open a gym in 6 months from now or something like that. It's kind of a funny thing. And I think sometimes it could be, it's a joke, but it's also naive in terms of like, oh yeah, we can go and get this
so
started.
Easy.
So easy. There's always the blind goggles, even though everyone here at a startup is living that every day and seeing how hard it is. There's always the blind goggles of like, oh yeah, this one's hard, but the next one's going to be so easy. It never is. Never is.
And I think one thing we've been talking about this a lot with the Philo guys is earned insight is super important. And like, if there's an industry, like there's some guys at Philo who are working on like oil refinery types of projects. And the reason that they know the pain points in that industry is because he worked at an oil refinery. Right. And so it's like, if there's an industry that you think, oh, hey, there might be something there, because there's a few ways that you could do it. You could say, hey, I'm going to go work at a startup. I'm going to surround myself with entrepreneurial people. Or there's, hey, I'm going to go work at an oil refinery and I'm going to find the problems that exist in those oil refineries. I'm going to have this earned insight all of a sudden. And then I'm going to go and try and work on a business that solves this for all oil refineries. So I actually think there's a few ways that you could go about, right? One of them is finding that really specific idea. One of them is the people. And you have advantages and disadvantages on both sides, right? Because if you're working in tech, you're not going to understand the ins and outs of the oil refinery or whatever the industry is.
Yeah.
And I like the gritty industries. I like the flashy deep tech and all of that stuff. For some reason, it's just not as interesting to me. For me, it's more like, I just want to go find like an existing technology that's not applied somewhere and apply it there. And so, I think that there's a few ways that you can approach entrepreneurship. It is hard, right? If you're working at an oil refinery and you're making good money, even if you have all these insights and all of these ideas, then it's hard to yank yourself out of that and go start a company with it.
Yeah.
So
it's I'm gonna do this at the end of the episode. I'm curious if there's a correlation between somebody who goes more of like the, hey, I was just involved in startups and all this fun stuff and goes to start their own company versus somebody who is more like deep field knowledge and stuff. I wonder if there's a correlation between success on those two.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see the data on that.
They've got to have 1,000 studies on this. I'll do some research and then I'll link anything I find in the episode description for anyone who's curious.
Yeah. One thing that I do know, and I guess I've anecdotally seen things on this, but unicorn founders tend to be older.
Mm-hmm.
And, you have to think, the people like these guys have been either working on startups or have been working in, some sort of industry and gained that deep knowledge. And, so they like, even if they were to try and explain what their startup does to someone, they probably wouldn't understand it because they don't understand the context of what that startup is operating in. It's an interesting, there's kind of two approaches there, and it'd be interesting to see the differences. I mean, but there's pros and cons, right? It's really difficult to yank yourself out of it.
Yes.
If you're in there.
But if you can,
and if you have the network is the other piece. Is how do you have the network to have someone that you can go with who's going to be able to work with you on it? Right. If you can have those two things and get the deep insights, those are that's like the trifecta, I feel like, of, okay, now we can go and build something here.
I agree. Let's do a little rapid fire. Final piece of advice you'd give somebody who's looking to go from, like I said, more traditional job, corporate America, into running their own business.
Yeah. Honestly, the first thing that I would say is get your personal finances figured out. Like, make sure that I feel like it's kind of weird advice, but like being in a place where you're like living paycheck to paycheck isn't going to put you in a place where you feel ready to go and make that decision.
I would also add on that you will not run the finances of your company well either. Even if you got it off the ground, I don't think it's going to succeed.
Yeah. So I think that's like baseline. Like, you just need to get that figured out and make sure that you are in a good spot. Make sure that you're ready to take the risk, because, that's right. Like, if everything is going crazy at home, you're not going to be able to focus on the business and be in a place for that. So that's the first thing that I would say. I would say that finding a technical co-founder, if you're doing something software related, or really if you're doing anything,
nowadays it's kind of anything.
Yeah, because like let's use the pest control example. You got to have someone who knows the pest control side, and you got to have someone who knows the sales side.
Mm-hmm.
If you're starting, right, and you could apply that to pretty much any business. And so, like, finding that person as fast as possible is really important. And actually, right, like with Philo and that investors, kind of that venture studio model, they've switched their model to where they won't back a company until, and it's probably because of me, they won't back a company until they have both of those roles filled.
Yeah.
And so, right, like, where do I go to find that person? If you're in college, case competitions, clubs, like, do the extra things, study groups, do the extra things that are going to put you around people who are thinking about similar things.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in the corporate world, talk to people who have been in that position. I mean, I like coming from the corporate world, though, it is harder. And like, I found Josh through a LinkedIn job posting.
Yeah.
Like that, I just got lucky, right? That I had the backing, had basically a job that I could give someone, and then we just found the right person. So yeah, find the right person, make sure your personal finances are in place. I would say just start trying. And don't think about it. I talk to some people and they're like, I've thought about doing that, but I don't want it to be a waste of time. And I would say, don't be afraid of like wasting time or spending time.
Yeah, I don't think you're actually wasting time.
Yeah.
Those 14 different ideas me and Connor worked on were not a waste of time at all.
Exactly. It's an experiment. And that's like everything you do in a startup is essentially an experiment.
Yes.
Every single product feature that you put out is an experiment. And you want to have really kind of the smallest experiments that get you the learnings the fastest you can, right? So moving fast through experiments, you don't have to build a full thing. With AI, it's a lot easier now. You can like get up MVPs really quickly, but experiment quickly. And you just have to start. You just have to like start reaching out to people. Don't be afraid to like cold LinkedIn DM someone.
Sell your product before it's even built.
Sell your product before it's even built. You don't have to have something that's built. You just have to be able to find the problem. And I think the other thing is, you drive around, you look at all these businesses and like take advantage of the opportunities that are around you, right? Like if your dad was a doctor, right? Like go into your dad's office and talk
Find
about,
the pain
right?
points,
Find
yeah.
the pain points.
I love it.
If you're, if whatever industry that you have some sort of relationship to, take advantage of those. Because it is, like for me, if I were to go try and do something for refineries, I'd be starting absolutely from scratch. And so take advantage of those. Yeah, those are a few that I'd throw out.
I love it. I think that's all great advice, and I would listen to it very, very keenly if I was looking to jump into something right now. Well, final question as we wrap up on today's episode of the Get Over Yourself podcast. I started the show originally to help entrepreneurs recognize that, yes, at the end of the day, you're going to make a good paycheck. If things work out, you're going to be able to provide for other people. That's amazing.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, though, the reason why anyone should be working and building a company is for the betterment of their customers and society.
Yeah.
America is amazing at driving entrepreneurs because people like us actually hopefully want to go out and solve real pain points and help our customers.
Yep.
Every single day when I talk to somebody who's not involved in the entrepreneurship world and working their businesses and whatnot, they're like, so why do you want to put in more time and effort into something like this? And I'm like, dude, it is amazing for me to look back and see the amount of value we're driving for our customers. Like this is for a company like ours, we're putting quote unquote food on the table for their employees because it's money that wasn't hitting their bank account that's now hitting their bank account. It's money that was owed to them. And anyways, so what is your reason why? And if I was to ask you what the term get over yourself means to you in your business, what would you say?
What does the term get over myself to me? It's a good question. I feel like for me, and this goes back to, right, like leaving the corporate world and being like, hey, you know what, I'm going to like try and do something.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is, I had always wanted to do this and I didn't think that it was possible. I'd kind of lost hope, essentially, that it was ever going to happen. That's fine. I'll just work in a corporate world for the rest of my life. And so for me, like get over yourself was, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to send it and try and just really push myself beyond what I thought I could do. And yeah, I feel like that's what it is for me, is just doing things that are new, that are scary, that are like outside of what you would normally do, and like stretching yourself and helping your team stretch themselves. And I feel like we've it's fun to see where we've gotten. Like you said, like you look back and you're like, man, how did we not know that? And just like growing and it goes back to that quote from Naval Ravikant, like get what you want out of life and help other people get what they want out of life.
That's the key right there.
Yep. And how do you do that? That's what I'd say.
I love it. Well, thanks for joining us on the episode. Guys, as always, if you want to reach out to Cameron, I'll in the episode description include any links back to his LinkedIn or his website or anything if you're interested in learning more about Revhawk as well. And then I'm going to go do some research and drop that in the chat for those correlations between early stage founder, just going into the startup world versus more late stage, and see what kind of the correlations are.
It'd be interesting to see.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, man. That was a fun episode.